In the brutal battlefield that is a courtroom, you must not forget that there is no one linear way that the opposite party is going to try and attack you and demolish you. There are multiple ways for them, multiple strategies, and any of them can ruin you and take away from you what you cherish most. Few years ago, a person came to me and said that his shop is about to be demolished by the DDA, and therefore we rushed to court. In a matter of about 24 hours, we got this petition under the Public Premises Act, some obscure act that I hadn't even heard about before this. We went and secured stay on demolition by the DDA under the Public Premises Act while the petition was pending. This matter got stretched out for several years, which is incredible for the client because for several years he is still in possession and is able to enjoy this said premises. Now, one thing that I did not know about, which the client never told me, was the fact that the client is actually a tenant and the landlord had given this premises on rent for a few hundred rupees several years ago. Now, for those of you who do not know, in the great city of New Delhi, there is something called the Delhi Rent Control Act, where there are shops worth several crore rupees which are let out and for which the rent even right now is 500, 700,000 rupees, because the Delhi Rent Control Act says that around the time that this act came across, there were many politicians who wanted to garner the support of the public, and that is why they came up with this solution saying that the landlord, the evil landlord, should not be allowed to raise prices whenever they want. So they put a ceiling on the they put a ceiling on the amount of rent you can increase every year, because of which in prime locations where adjacent uh, shops which are not under rent control, they're paying rent of maybe 4 or 5 or 7 lakh rupees, and this shop, same proportion, right next to it is paying a rent of say 500 or 700 rupees. This gentleman was also paying some few hundred rupees as rent for this shop, which also wanted to be demolished by the DDA because the DDA said that this is illegal construction upon public land. Now, on one hand, we were able to keep this stay going on, and this matter was indefinitely stretched out for a long, long time, one way or the other. And we were quite satisfied with what was going on. However, simultaneously, the client did not tell me that the landlord had filed an eviction petition under section 14(1)(a) of the Delhi Rent Control Act. Because this gentleman was not paying that few hundred rupees, for perspective, my mobile phone bill is twice this rent of the shop. And this gentleman did not deposit any of this amount. He contested the proceedings before the before the rent controller, and constituted under the Delhi Rent Control Act. The rent controller passed an order of eviction if this sum is not paid. Yet this gentleman does not pay the money because of reasons best known to him. The reason actually was that he had multiple things going on, many problems in his family, many litigations going on as well, because of which this thing slipped his mind. At least that's what he claims. And because of this, on one hand, we were able to save the premises, the shop, from the DDA for several years, but on the other hand, the other opponent, a very real opponent, swooped in, saw the opportunity, and utilized this legal strategy to get possession of this shop from the client. It serves as a very valuable lesson. On a lot of occasions, you are very happy fighting your civil matters, your civil dispute battles. All of a sudden, the enemy comes in and registers perhaps a criminal case against you, and now you are all of a sudden caught defending a criminal case where you have to apply for anticipatory bail, you have to go for quashing of FIR or maybe charge sheet. It's a whole lot of nightmare out there as well. There are many other examples that come my way. Very recently, a person was threatening uh, uh, an individual with recovery of dues. This individual went and filed several complaints after legal advice with several statutory authorities, because of which this person who was wanting to seek these dues suddenly found himself embroiled in a bunch of show cause notices issued by the departments. So, the lesson for us to learn, to remember, is that we cannot take this battlefield casually. We need to understand that these battles are not fought in a linear way. There are multi pronged ways you can be attacked, and multi pronged ways where you can attack as well. And you need to realize if the stakes are high enough. If the stakes are high enough, on a lot of occasions, I tell the client, don't get into unnecessary litigation if it does not serve you any purpose. But more often than not, I see that attacking the opposite party from multiple angles is far better than saving your seat and then getting attacked on multiple angles and then being on the defensive. It's far better to I wouldn't go and say exploit the legal system, but I would say it is far better to avail of your legal remedies wherever possible, rather than hope and pray that someone who is standing in front of you, wielding a knife, prepared to cut you down, will spare you a few limbs here and there.